the reality is, even if, so if you're both working, husband and wife, still the home management, as I call it, it defaults to the women. So you're supposed to finish your 8 to 5 and somehow come and start another 8 to 5 in the house. Yeah. So there needs to be support. And I want to encourage the men in the room, please, be kind to the ladies. Because you come home and you find someone is tired and stressed, and then they are also being stressed at home. So that's just the reality. So I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but we try and manage the house better. If you see somebody is stressed, you try and relieve as much as you can. So the reality is there will never be 100% balance. It's just integrating bits and pieces. If you're able to, I guess I'm lucky with the current job, we work mostly off the laptop and that kind of thing. So you can work from home morning hours to spend more time with people, or come home and continue your work in the house, fine. Again, it will not work for, majority of you might end up in clinical, so that is not practical. But even from my other colleagues, what I've seen, even the surgeons who have very unpredictable schedules. I was actually with surgeons in April during their conference. So because it was funny, Kenya Pediatrics and Surgical were the same week, but I was in the peds, but of course I went to say hi to a few people. There's one who showed me they have a very clear schedule, no surgeries on Friday, and unless, and if he's not on call, then he can be out of even the station. And he takes the family out, because, the child will come from school early. Like, you have to be deliberate. So even if you have a clinical job, it's more about being deliberate. It's looking at the weekend saying, actually, we can go to Naivasha this weekend, And some of the things we're not even talking about expensive holidays, I don't know where, out of the country. Just, Kenya is actually a very beautiful country. You just need to drive around and you make the best of it. Yeah. So that's the short. I don't know if I got it for the life work balance, yeah.
Because you talked about being deliberate. Oh, sorry, it's okay. You talked about being deliberate with maintaining that family aspect of you. What other things have you had to be deliberate about maintaining to just keep yourself going and in this profession and as a person?
Pretty much everything. We are all different, and in med school, me and my group of friends, we were in the category of the people who liked to have a lot of fun activities. I'm being very political in my choice of words. So after work, after school, sorry, we were the going out type. In fact, that's when I realized I like traveling, because every medical school conference, Msake, I was always there. Conference to Rwanda, we are there on that bus. Conference to Tanzania, we are in that bus. So that we were called life-ists and whatever, and we're all different. But you see, everyone has their own way of releasing stress. To date, my Fridays, those who might bump into me, you'll find me somewhere out with friends, because I need that after a long week to just forget about work, although we still talk about work sometimes, but just to be out there, and it helps. But then that can also get too much. There are those who do a lot of sports. Despite my name, I'm terrible with that. And there are those who plug into various societies, religious, social, and so on. So whatever release you have, you also have to find a way to balance. It doesn't become too much. And there were moments where I needed to separate myself from some who are their close family and friends. So it's the balance. So there are moments we separate. And then you end up with a group of friends. The reality is it will narrow down. Maybe now you have 10, 15. It will narrow down to the 5 or 4 of you who kind of generally understand each other. if I need to, it's a Friday, and I tell guys, hey, tomorrow we're actually driving out of town. It's 9 o'clock. Tuonane siku ingine. So you just have to be able to do that without people saying what's wrong with you and all that. So, and it will come. It's a learning. I think the reality is when you earn your first salary, there will be a lot of things exposed about you. Just know that. Because you know, first you'll have waited very long, 6 years plus 1 is 7, and then it will come. Hopefully it will come well. It comes as a lump sum. That first weekend, you will see the true colors of everyone. There are those who will disappear for 3 days. Come back. That's just the reality. Some of us disappeared for a week, actually. So, but anyway, it's balance. And I think if you have to have some level of strong will. I think that one goes back to, at some point it's, yes, this is how we're going to do it. Yeah.
And maybe just a quick question on that. It's okay. Maybe just a quick question on that. Does anyone have a question right now? So maybe the mic can be taken to that. The question is just for these 4 friends you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because I think as medics we're very, like especially I'll just speak for myself. I found myself for the past 4 years gravitating to people within this sphere. I don't think it's a bad thing, but what would you say your core friends looks like right now? Is it because you have aligned interests, paths, or because you add to each other in very many different ways? What do you have to say about that? Just raise your hand if you have a question.
So I think I'll take that. So the reality is core friends will be 60-70% medical field, even now. Maybe for me, I've tried to be deliberate to have, even within medicine, diversity. So still have friends who are in clinical, some in non-clinical, some are in government, some are in, they run their own hospitals. Because even for my own job, I need to understand the healthcare ecosystem, and you can't learn it by, since I work for Biomiriu, I only hang around with French people, that's my only group. But you try to have also 1 or 2, and this is very important for medics. We forget we are not the experts of everything. We might be the experts of the human body to some extent, but you need a lawyer, you need a politician, not necessarily very senior. Don't think very senior. You need, everybody needs a policeman friend. We know why. So, I mean, the reality is you need other spheres. It can't just be medics, because then, you need someone in finance. Yeah, because the first day I saw cryptocurrency, blockchain, I was like, what is this? So I reach out to the right person. Even them, they're also kind of learning, but they're better than me. And being willing to say, I don't know. I normally tell people, I'll pay my lawyer friend whatever amount so that this deal is not fake. Because like there's a piece of property I was buying somewhere, and then I just asked a few questions and I felt very happy. Then I went to my lawyer friend. He had 25 questions. I couldn't believe it. He asked so many questions, I was like, crap. And it became this big mess on Facebook, as you can imagine. Now, for me, I don't consider myself superior to the guys who are doing clinical, and they should not feel like I'm carrying myself that way. Maybe some do, and that's why he was reacting. But we need each other. In fact, the other day I was with a politician friend, and he's good at politics, and he's doing well in Ministry of Health. He's very close to the CS and all that. And he said, at the end of the day, I need you because you're the guys who we will need for the technical. Yeah, us will play the politics and fight with whoever, but yeah. So it's about diversity. There has to be some level of diversity. If you close yourself, because again, we also become judgmental. This person is too, crazy for me. I can't hang out with them. Well, there are some you can't. That's a fact. But again, don't close yourself to having friends who are exactly carbon copy of you. Then you end up with limited diversity, you're not even feeding off each other. You're not learning about what's happening. Yeah. Hope that.
So, hello. My name is Nathan Kamenchu, and I'm actually here from, I'm doing my bachelor's in pharmacy. So, hello everyone. See you, Mapani.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, well done. Well done.
So, I've particularly enjoyed your talk and the conversation we've had because you have a lot of experience in the pharmaceutical side of things and diagnostics. So, I've liked that. So, my question is, when you mentioned, I think I've also listened to a lot of people from, I don't know if they are your age mates, but people who are posted at around the same time and seem to have been taken to heads of district, even in pharmacy, where you head of district or head of a hospital, and you've since left that field. But can you, I'd like to mention a bit how the experience was being the head of a district as straight from internship, the change from what you see now, maybe in the same hospital, you at the time, have things changed during the time that you, since from then to now? Secondly, well, I've still not understood what exactly your post is, or any of the roles that you've served. And I think that's okay because sometimes it's okay to chart your path and still as more on an easily definable role. So what are some of the, what is some of your advice to people who want to move into such fields? And what are the options for moving into research roles or such newer roles that may not have clear definitions as of now as well?
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe even the first thing, it's just from the last question he had, because he said he's a medical affairs manager. Like maybe you can demystify what medical affairs. You can start from there.
All right, so I take that one first, yeah. So let's start with the first question. I think it's a bit easier. Yeah, so being posted as the boss of a hospital in a district, again, it was, I don't regret it because there are also some administrative things that you get exposed to. Because sometimes as a doctor, pharmacist, lab, nurse, you're complaining about something in the hospital, but you're not understanding what could be the reason from that perspective. So I think it really opened my eyes. Although this is a hospital that was, like many, not doing well. So it was mostly problems. In fact, that's why I was like, I can't do this for long. Because it appeared that for you to settle down, you just needed to accept status quo, accept that the lab will never have anything, the pharmacy will never have anything. Let me just go for those meetings and per diems. You know, the person in charge of lab is running a private lab outside. You know, that was the status quo. So I could have accepted that, and then I'm sort of like the king of that and nothing changes. But for me, I was like, this can't be my job. Yeah, because I remember doing the ward round once, and then, you know, you feel that the patient needs certain tests. The lab can only do, I remember this very clearly, they could only do hemoglobin, urinalysis, and TB. So I was like, if the patient doesn't have any of these three, so what are we treating? I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Okay, no. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was the reality. That was exactly how the lab was. Pharmacy, I think, had 2 drugs, Septrin and something else. Yeah, but you know, you need to, out there, and maybe you need to talk to people currently, because that's 2010, okay? That's a long time ago. But just check with guys working in, especially level 3, because that was a level 3 hospital. You will hear very interesting things. And what I'm saying is not, I doubt is very far from what is happening in some facilities, not all of them, of course. So I remember saying, this place, okay, no. So those are those places where you have no work, because even there's no theater, so you can be happy with that and say, there's no work. So I locum full time, I do, my own businesses, and you just grow, which is fine. For some people, that's their path. For me, I was like, hey, this one, no, this is not going to work for me. Yeah, so I think you asked, so the experience then and now. It's hard for me to know the now very well. I mean, I know a couple of guys who are med soups, mostly level 5. They go through the same pressure. Now, what changed is there's devolution now. So back in our time, the distance between you and Afia House was what determined the level of scrutiny. So the farther you are from Afia House, the less likely they were even going to find out what you're doing. Yeah, and it also takes some level of integrity. I think for me, because I like to try to have a lot of integrity, I'm not perfect because, like I told you, you need a policeman friend, otherwise you'll not survive in this Kenya. So, but I was like, you can be in like West Pokot back then, and nobody will ever come to that hospital. Yeah, but now with devolution, what has happened? There's more scrutiny. So it's up to you to adapt. And you see some of these politicians are not very good people. Yeah. Some can be reasonable, some can understand and you can have a conversation, but most of them it's like, even if they don't see the doctor for 2 minutes, they raise hell, and yet maybe you are genuinely doing something. So I don't know if I've tackled the first one well before I go to the second one. Or is there a specific thing you want me to, you can still ask, it's okay. On the first one.
Oh, okay, so what I was trying to get at is how you think the health systems, I'm assuming, okay, right now you are working still in health systems, but from a different aspect, from a different angle. I hear you from what I've gotten from your story that you still do a lot of CMEs, but as a trainer at the moment.
Yeah.
You're still visiting hospitals. Now, in that experience, do you think anything has changed in any aspect of the healthcare delivery from your efforts, right? Because sometimes dependence on, say, the government or politicians, as you've said, may not lead to the best results. But from now your different angle, do you see any progress or any change towards better health outcomes?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's good because it now builds to the second question. So maybe I'll start by explaining my job description, which is never easy to explain. And I don't know how much time we have because it needs a bit of 10, 15. Okay. So to answer that question, if you permit me, I want to do a little bit of history so that there's clarity as to where medical fits in. So a typical pharmaceutical company, as you all know, has a sales team. Yeah, those are the people, the med reps, marketing and all that. So for the longest time, they were the ones driving the conversation globally. Yeah. But in the US and parts of Europe, they started to have a lot of pressure to separate sales activities from scientific or medical activities, if I can call them that. So this pressure was coming from your regulators, like the FDA, for example. So over time, it picked up more in the West, but in developing countries like ours, took a bit of time. Yeah. And traditionally, there is medical in every company, especially from the research and development, because at the end of the day, to develop a new drug, there's science, there's research, and usually those are medical teams. But we don't have much research and development like in Africa, so you don't see those people. So the reason why medical came in was to try and also, as I mentioned, just to separate. Yeah. Now, it's not very easy to separate because if I'm meeting a doctor from Novartis, I'm the medical science liaison, and then there's a med rep, the conversations can overlap. But there's ownership. So like number one, any research activity is owned by medical. So if you find some of the pharmaceutical companies engaged in research projects or research grants, that's fully medical. And I think that one you get, right? So if there's a research project that Novartis is doing, locally, there's medical team. Secondly, there's the training of the sales reps. Now, sales reps are there's a lot of variation, right? There are those who have a science background. Maybe they did biochemistry, they are farm techs, even pharmacists. Or some just did any course. Because our job market, for you to be a med rep, some of those companies, they hire anyone with the sales side. And some of them can learn the science over time, but you know how it is. Sometimes the presentation of that discussion is all wrong. So we are responsible also for that training internally. And then data communication, which is probably what I was now alluding to with CMEs and symposia, is a big part of the job. So we have new data that has come on this drug. The medical presentation, depending on, so we also sit in the company and decide, in this CME, are we trying to focus on a medical objective or a commercial objective? Of course, at the end of the day, we want the commercial objective because that's what pays all our salaries. But sometimes you need to start the discussion on managing resistant diabetes as a conversation, get the insights, because also those insights will help the company understand, for you to launch this new diabetes drug, you need to take into account that in our country, we don't have A, B, C, D. So we need to fix this fast, yeah? And then lastly, if a drug is not registered, commercial people are not allowed to talk about it. Only medical can talk about it. From a scientific aspect, you know, looking at, this is diabetes, these are the issues in diabetes, there's this new molecule coming in, might it work, might it not work? So we are we're the ones who lay the groundwork before the sales teams come and take the sales. I've tried to summarize that JD in 3 minutes. I don't know if it has made sense. Is it clearer now? So the actual flavor of the job varies in different companies and varies on which product you're working on. So a lot of medical teams were hired by pharmaceutical companies when they were expanding on oncology. And when I say oncology, it's not chemotherapy. It's those drugs that end with MAB and NIB, if you remember. Because there, even for the med rep, you first have to go through some long, this receptor is, attaches to this, you know what I'm talking about. So even if you just leave the med rep to do it, even for them, they'll be swimming in the deep end, yeah? So you come in from that perspective. So it ties in with what you're saying about what change I've seen, our actions. So one of the benefits of medical teams, usually it's medical doctors, but it doesn't have to be medical doctors only. The beauty with us as medics is when we meet a prof, the conversation is peer-to-peer. And not necessarily peer-to-peer in the sense that some of them are here, but they can be a better level of engagement. And even when we go back to the company, you say, you guys, if we are launching this product, you need to think about 3 other things that you're not looking at, yeah? Don't just look at the competition, oh, we are cheaper, and all those kind of things. So that peer-to-peer conversation helps. And then also the fact that, so that has helped. That's the first thing I would say that has helped. Secondly, we work with associations, your Kenya Cardiac Society and so on. We do projects. So like for the projects that was done in Novartis by my team, not by me, was a diagnostic project to support, to improve diagnosis of certain rare conditions. There's these retinal conditions, diabetic macular edema and so on, and there was also one for heart failure. So that cannot be done if there was no medical team. Because the sales team are like, we have a drug that does what? Who is the competition? Are we cheaper? Can we get into Kenyatta tender? It's very commercial. As we're like, guys, you're running so fast. This condition first, we don't even know how many people have it. Let's do an awareness, let's do a diagnosis campaign. So there's a lot that has been driven by medical, in my opinion, that's beneficial. The challenge is, it's driven by commercial companies. So sometimes people are like, but you guys are eventually here only to sell. But those who appreciate the journey will see that there has been some impact. And then research. At least medical teams have brought some research, maybe not a lot. And research means new data, new evidence, hopefully improve guidelines. Yeah. So our job may not have changed everything, but there have been pockets of improvement here and there. I hope that answers it. Okay. And we can talk more and more about this because this one needs more time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think sorry. No, I think you've done justice to describing how you described how we look at pharmaceutics as possibly not malevolent, but less benevolent entity that we can use. So I think that was a core part of your question. We'd just like to take two more questions. There's one over here. And is there anyone else that you can know? Because we really want to give everyone a chance. Okay. Then she can ask she has two questions. Yeah, but thank you from the pharmacist themselves. We can't hear you. Okay.
My name is Rosemary, and my question is, there's a point you mentioned that you did like 20 interviews in a span of like 6-7 months, and there's also the part you mentioned that, you know, consultants and their receptionists would refer to you as a med rep. And I remember when Dr. Hueda was here, she also mentioned that at a point in her career, she worked as a data clerk. So my question is, what is this that drives you to keep going when people are referring to you as a med rep? What is this that keeps you, you know, that makes you agree to go for the 18th interview and anticipate a 19th one when all the others haven't worked out? And is there a point it gets overwhelming, and how do you deal with it?
So I can take that? Yeah. So actually a correction. I had 20 applications because I counted them the other day, because some are on LinkedIn, in the 2018 period when I was trying to transition. I think about 5 of them became actual interviews. So already you can even see 15, you don't even meet the cut. So it's actually worse. Yeah, so, but to your question, actually, when I was still at Olenguruone as just after internship, I remembered I probably did at least 10 research interviews. Can't remember because it's a long time ago. There was Kemri, there was what. And that was when I really felt low because I'm working in this place that I don't want to work in. And I'm doing these interviews. I really want research. It's not coming. And I remember actually by a whisker, I almost joined AAR. I almost signed up because I was like, I'm going to leave government, definitely. So I almost joined AAR in outpatient. And that was the point Kemri called. So it was a bit of luck that it was the right time. There's probably no one answer to that. Like it really can get frustrating. But the goal for me, and even then with the 10 or 11 interviews I must have done, I was like, it has to be a research job. So I would come for even some interviews. I think it was Nairobi West Hospital. They were even giving an offer, but I was like, this is not going to be me. In fact, I was telling everyone, even if I get whatever job, this will be a job as I wait for the main job. So back to what I was saying, you have that clarity of, this is me. Wherever the research job starts, we will start there. So, I think that hopefully partly answers the first part. And then there at the reception, I think that was one of the toughest ones because you're there seemingly the most experienced, let me put it this way, the most scientifically oriented person in that bench because it's medrep, and then MSL. So you're feeling, surely this guy should listen to my story. But then it wasn't happening. Again, back to what I said, if it was not for me searching online and realizing, okay, this job, unlike the way some people come here, the lecture is 40 minutes, so we must quickly download all the information in 40 minutes and run away. It's more of, are we together? And you can see, I'm very careful. If you ask a question, I answer. I ask again, are we still together? Because I don't want, my job is to tick a box. I came here to talk for AMSUN, I've ticked and I'm off. So that internal validation from people saying, you're very good at this, I was like, oh, okay, so I can do something here. And then I did get an award. I didn't mention that. So there was an award in 2014. They called it Make Things Happen. It was for the company. And I don't even remember how it was nominated, but I just remember, we had this quarterly meeting, and then they said, and the winner is, and I was shocked, like, wow. And the person explaining, the HR said, we have seen you come in, you've learned some things, you've become this person dependable and what. I said, okay. So I think that kept me going, like, okay, it's working, yeah. And then definitely the promotion part. Because in any job, if you get a promotion, we won't go into the details about how promotions can happen. That can become political. But the point is, there's validation that, okay, you're doing something. So there also has to be some encouragement. I think for Huwaida, because I've interacted with her briefly, she did that data clerk thing for a short time, then somebody noticed that she can do more and more responsibilities were given to her. So I'm sure she said, okay, this is going somewhere. Even if we use a clinical example, the first time you'll do a CS, which might be during internship, depending on who is supervising you, if they actually give you validation and say, actually, that was nice, that is the only way you will continue doing CSs. Otherwise, you'll be like, okay, this thing is not for me. There has to be validation. It could be family, and that's why it's important our parents are the ones who are our biggest cheerleaders. They're the ones who say you can do it, even when they see you're struggling. And because they have to be, no one else might be, It could be internal in the company, it could be someone external saying, I really liked what you did the other day. I think it boils down to that validation, yeah. I hope I have answered your question in the interest of, because I was looking at time and I'm like, okay.
Hi, my name is Julie Maniki. I'm a third-year student graduating med. And my question is, are there any research institutes that are taking students at the moment? And if yes, what's the procedure for applying? Because some of us are going for a 3-month long holiday in the next 1 month. And for me, I'd be interested to utilize my time there because I'm interested in research. So that's my question.
Okay, great question. So I think every research institution has, to some extent, an allowance for that. Some have electives, which I know Cambridge Kilifi has. Kavi used to have, but I don't know, might have gone down. So I'll be honest, I probably don't have the whole list of who is doing what. What I'll encourage you is, I like that you point out you have 3 months. Use your time efficiently. I know when you're on holiday, we want to take a break. Med school is tough. But it will not hurt to use, you must have a network somewhere or somebody you can start approaching even in med school, a senior. And some of the consultants now were our classmates, so I think they're a little bit more approachable. Even if it means chaperoning, you sit with someone from 8 to 10, just see what they do in that research job. That's actually a good starting point. Because some things are not very well structured, like an application process and then what. Some things you actually force your way in, if I can use that word. Remember what I said, me approached Professor Ndwati, told her, I want research. I didn't even know. I think I asked it exactly like that. And she said, okay, you can help me with data collection. Now, someone else was saying, I'm not doing data collection. But at least in that exposure, I realized, oh, okay, so these are the processes and everything. So use your time to approach whoever you can approach here, and you're in an institution that has Kavi here, United there, Kemri at the back, like the whole ecosystem is here. Somebody somewhere will say, why don't you join me tomorrow morning? I think, I hope. And that will be a good starting point. And your 3 months, not all every day. You can pick maybe 1 month or 2, so that you can also use the other 1 month to unwind a bit. That would be my advice. So it may not be straightforward, apply here, because I don't want to give, it may not work. Yeah, and none might be taking for 3 months. Some want like electives. At least you should plan now. Electives is now 5th year, right? Yeah, so during 5th year now you should apply to Kemri, Kilifi, and I don't know who else is doing, because that's the one that's still there. I don't know if they still take about 8. Yeah, but it's easier for you to know than me, because now I would need to call all my research buddies and say who is doing this, who is doing that. Yeah, I hope that is satisfactory. Okay, good. Mhm.
So I've come to the end of this wonderful session, and I really hope that everyone got the questions that would like to be answered, and have even learned a lot more than we expected to. And we still linger here afterwards. I think people really see how open Doc is, and how important finding mentorship. In fact, we had even mentioned, you call it reverse mentorship. Yes. And how there's something I can even learn just from interacting with us. Yeah. And I think that, yeah, I'd like us to do 3 applauses. We can just do it together. In fact, should I give you a chance to say comrades power?
Comrades, power. It should be a bit more, but anyway. I think if we are too loud, they'll think we are starting a strike, so we need to be careful.
Yeah. So if one, can we do the first clap for Doc, for AMSUN, and yourselves as the audience. So you can just, I'd like to invite Chief Melvin Mwenda. What was the place you mentioned in Meru? Kubu Associate. Kubu Associate, just come and do the greeting down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I'd like to invite Best first to appreciate the speaker.
And the person up for the speaker.